What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy New Year, happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa to everybody. Is this thing on? Is this thing on? I'll have in old days you just checked it, just tip the microphone and get the little whistling sound in the back. But
yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
What's going on? Hey guys, this is a first of all, I want to thank y'all for hanging out with me today, man. This is as it turns out, a special edition of the Sole Purpose Show, which Monica and I started a few years ago. But this was really just kind of an idea, man, to just pull our family and friends together and just talk some football. This is what we do, and I'm just happy that we have an opportunity, man, and blessed to see this day come to where we can just kind of get together and bring the rest of the world in on some of our conversations. So we're gonna keep it rated PG / almost R. But anyway, I'm not gonna waste a whole lot of time with a whole lot of babble. I just want to thank everybody for joining. And I'm going to jump into the intro so that you know who's on the screen. I'm going to first start with my fellow frat brother, who is only fitting that he be first to be introduced because of being a member of the First and the Finest.
So brothers are getting no love.
Right, like, wait. Right. We're just starting all wrong.
We're starting off exactly how we always start off. So Pete Jacobs is a former multi-sport athlete who is now raising two superstar athlete sons. One of whom is actually ready to take the college baseball world by storm. Brother Jacobs, welcome and happy New Year, brother.
Thank you for having me, Harris. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
All right. And next is Alan Williams. Alan Williams is, in addition to being family, is a former standout defensive tackle at Kent State, and also a former high school head football coach down in South Florida, where talent is king. We're gonna be talking about talent, and I've got the talent assessors on this call. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, man? Happy to be here. Happy New Year and happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa.
All right, same to you, man. Same to you. Finally, we are blessed to have in our midst Preston Jackson. He is the man who runs the #1 high school talent prep and evaluation platform in the state of Florida. So I'm going to forewarn everyone that he is going to always assume that he is the smartest person in the room. But no, on a serious note, PJ is also a former defensive back at the prestigious Notre Dame University, and now he and his wife are also raising one of the brightest quarterback talents in all of HBCU football last year. So we are glad to have him part of the group. What's going on, PJ?
Good morning to all. Let's rock and roll, baby.
All right, let's do it.
I just got a quick. I got a quick before we start. Like, why? If we got Allen on and we got Keith on, why does this need to be PG-13? If we got Allen and Keith the combo, we need to kind of get off the rails a tad bit. It's in their nature.
I started between PG and R because I want us to start there, right? I wanted them to just get the right mindset to start there before we start dropping F-bombs. Like, so I just wanted to kind of I just want to get it juiced up before the F-bombs start.
Q's and alpha, you know how they go.
Yeah.
And listen, as long as Captain Chaos doesn't throw some ridiculous statement out there, I think we'll be okay.
Stay in my lane.
She will. Brothers, I want to address the elephant in the room. We're getting together talking about the college football playoffs this year, and which actually start tonight. But the elephant in the room is obviously we're in, I don't know, what is this, year 2-3 of the 12-game playoff format, and we had a lot of controversy this year. So I guess the biggest question is the selection committee got under a lot of heat. Did the selection committee get this right this year? Finally, who wants to start? Alan, you want to start us off?
I'm gonna say no. After looking at it hurts me because I'm not a big Notre Dame fan. Even though my cousin, the only time I cheer for Notre Dame is when my cousin was playing there, when Preston was playing there, and more so cheer for him than the success of Notre Dame. But I believe they deserve the right to get in. I don't know who you take out. But when you start looking at their stats and what they were able to accomplish this year, they deserve the chance to get in and show if they could. We all know the history. When they get up against in these big games, we all know what ends up happening at the end. Even if they make it to the championship, they end up losing out. But they still deserve it. I think they deserve the chance to get in. And one time, shout out to my their running back coach, Jawan Sider, man. That's home team from the Glades. Followed him all the way through. And he played at FAMU, Keith
Harris. Yep, I remember.
Shout out to him. I wish they would have gotten in because I think they played a good enough schedule and they put up enough points and they were productive enough on both offense and defense to deserve the right to get into the playoffs.
Well, Jacobs, the first thing I heard him say was, I don't know who you take out. Last weekend's performance by the team that got in just by virtue of the fact that they won the conference. Does that give us does that give us an answer to that question? Because you compare those teams against Notre Dame.
Yeah, I heard Allen, and I think most people think that the committee didn't do it right, but based on the letter of the law or how it's written, they got it right. The original focus of college football is to make sure not only the Power Four conferences got in, but also the Group of Five winners who were ranked inside the top 25 got in. So you have, from the American Conference, you had Tulane, and then you also had James Madison. Even though they don't compare as far as talent-wise, recruiting within the confines of the rule. Y'all know I'm a rule follower.
Yeah.
Right. The way that the college football playoff is set up, now they have the top 8 teams in there. And that's what we're going to be discussing a little more in this. But, what I'd like to see Notre Dame in, yes, I'd like to have seen Texas or BYU in there as well. But, until they address the whole Group of Five dilemma, that's just the way that this is going to go moving forward, because those kind of smaller schools can slip into, you saw it with SMU last year, Boise, some of these smaller schools, they got in, because so I didn't like watching blowouts, but if you go back and look at the playoffs in the first round last year, then as well. So I think Notre Dame should have gotten in, but I think that they got it right because they were operating within the confines of the rules. So I'm a rule follower, so until the rules change, they got it right, in my opinion.
or so you say. Hey, listen, PJ, I'm gonna give you the last word on this. And he talked about the blowouts last weekend. I wanted to see Tulane. I wanted to see James Madison upset. Why aren't we looking at this the same way we look at the March Madness? Like, you got all of these teams, and the reason why you tune in is because you want to see those underdog teams take somebody out. That's what we talk about. Did they get it right?
Of course they did not get it right. And Alan and Keith make a good point. All right, Keith Jacobs, you used to be a shit. Keith Jacobs now is a rule follower. Okay, so he makes a good mix of that. All right, okay. I know it hurts Alan to say Notre Dame is in, but Alan is finally right for once. I'll address the elephant in the room. Alabama should not be in there. They got their ass handed to them at the end of the season. They were a 3-loss team. They lost to a bad Florida State team at the beginning of the season. They lost to Oklahoma mid-season, and they got the behinds kicked by Georgia at the end of the year by 21 points. Okay, they should not be in there. And at the same time, you've got an Alabama team whose logo stands for more than what the team did this season. All right, they should not be in there. Notre Dame was one of the top 5 teams at the end of the year. 0-2 to start the season, finished off strong, beat ranked teams, had the best player in college football on the field. They should be in. Alabama should be out. It should never be a question between Miami. Miami should always be in there. They won head-to-head. That's it. Alabama's done. That's who should be out.
So he wanted to talk about Alabama, but guys, I know we're going to talk about the Alabama-Indiana game. Based on what President just said, if Alabama makes it even a close game against Indiana, then we may have to come back and revisit whether or not they should.
No, we don't. We can't. Indiana even that good.
We can't do that, Harris.
Oh, there y'all go.
You can't do that comparison. because some teams just match up better with others. Some teams just match up better with others.
Well,
so it was just a close game.
You know, address that.
Fire it up.
Hey, Jacobs always says, you know, you gotta, you know, you approach the Big Ten with caution, right? It's a very top heavy. It's a very top heavy conference. So you got Indiana, you have Ohio State. Both of them look great, of course, but who are they playing? You look at their schedule. Look at their strength of schedule.
Going with what Preston is saying with Notre Dame. First of all, let's get some things correct. See, Preston like to pick and choose when arguments are convenient from. One thing that he said to me repeatedly is that losses early in the season should not count against you or do not count against you. So the fact that they lost to Florida State in the first game of the season, based on your logic, not impact them at the end of the season. The other thing that the College Football Committee has already established is that losing a championship football game in your conference, a top 10 team, should not negatively impact your ability to make the college football playoff, because you can't have a team like Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and these other schools that did not even make it to the conference championship benefit from just sitting there idly on championship conference week, and then a team like Alabama, who's already playing a much more difficult schedule than Notre Dame, if we want to talk about schedules, being penalized for playing top teams in the country and making it to the conference championship. You can't have it both ways, Preston Jackson. It don't work like that.
It's trash. It's trash. Ain't my fault. They played. They look like trash when they played.
Navy.
They look like trash when they play. They look like trash when they play.
All right. Well, listen. I think PJ is taking advantage of the fact that my brother Jacob's audio is fading in and out, and so
because he's talking trash. Because he's talking trash. That's why
his audio
is naturally. It's AI. It's naturally fading them out.
Well, listen.
But go ahead.
And now he's frozen. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give us a chance to transition to the game tonight, because I want to make sure we have enough opportunity to revisit this question of Alabama when we get to their game, which is coming up tomorrow. But if the elephant in the room is the selection committee, the blue whale in the room is this Ohio State Miami rematch from 2003, according to my notes, Jacobs. The year was 2003 in the Fiesta Bowl.
Don't bring that up, please, sir.
In Ohio State. No, not only am I going to bring it up, I was actually going to kick it to you, because I've never really had this conversation with you. I've known you a long time. You have spent the better part of your life in South Florida, and even since 2003, the question really is: has Miami really ever gotten over that game?
No. And the reason being, it was such a horrible cheat. It was when you hear people conspiracy theorists talk about games are rigged and they've already chosen who they want to be national champion and Super Bowl champion and things of that nature. When you go back and look at that game, that last play, I mean, the teams were celebrating. Ohio State had their head down. Like they had already said, hey, we lost. It's over. Miami's cheering. And next thing you know, here you come with a flag, to give them life again. So, I think that you don't forget those type of things. It's just like the same way when Miami plays Notre Dame. They don't forget cons versus Catholics versus cons. You don't forget those type of things. When you embarrass South Florida, University of Miami, we don't ever forget those type of things. And they just, I think it's going to be a better game than what some people think it's going to be, based off of what they have going on here. But what I'm excited about, I'm a defensive guy. So what I'm excited about is excited about seeing these two defenses go head to head. They have Ohio State ranked as number one defense in the nation. And then you have Miami ranked as number 4 defense in the nation. So I'm excited to see, particularly those two defensive ends for Miami, Ruben Bain and Messidor. I'm excited to see what they do against that offensive line for Ohio State. So I think it's going to be a good game.
Preston, here's what I'm hearing. I'm gonna let you weigh in because and I haven't asked Alan what his actual pick is for the game yet. We haven't gotten that far. But since he is so full of emotion, his objectivity is obviously been skewed a little bit. So first of all, tell us what happened in that game back in 2003 and why everybody in South Florida is so butthurt still today, 20 years later. And then talk to me about what's going to happen in this game.
I think they're justified. That was if I remember correctly, it was a holding call in the end zone by who was a cornerback at that point in time. It was a holding call that was called in the end zone. Was it? It might have been.
I think it was.
Okay. Regardless, it was a tic-tac call. Yeah. It was a really BS call. Miami had the game won, and a very that call spoiled a fantastic championship game. All right, so just in full objectivity and totality, it was a really good game, a defensive battle. It went back and forth. It was a very tic-tac call, and me as a defensive back definitely did not agree with that call. I think they robbed Miami at that point in time, and Miami had that stretch in the late 90s, early 2000s, that they were the team, at least for those 3 to 4 years, that people just did not like to see win, and they were that good. I am not rooting for Miami for once in this game because I think they took a spot in this championship, in this playoffs that Notre Dame should have. So I definitely want Ohio State to win this.
You just said it should have gone to Alabama.
Doesn't mean I don't want to Notre Dame.
You said Miami was supposed to be in, and it should have gone, and Alabama should have been the one going out. So
Miami deservingly so by Keith Jacobs' rule book, they should be in. That does not mean I want them in over Notre Dame. So now we're just going to go down to what could happen. I do think Ohio State might have a little bit of trouble with the South Florida talent they're going to bring that Miami's going to show. I do think that Messidor and Ruben Bain are going to present a massive problem for those tackles at Ohio State. I am not a Carson Beck fan, though he has played better in Miami uniform than he did in Georgia uniform his last year as a Bulldog. I think Malachi Tony is one of the best players in the nation that plays a wide receiver for Miami. However, I think that young quarterback at Ohio State is as good as we've seen as a young prospect. I also think the receiving unit that Ohio State has presents a massive problem for a very average University of Miami secondary. So I think this game might be entertaining to start. I think we'll probably see maybe anywhere between a 3 to a 10-point spread in the first half. And I think it could go either way. Miami could strike early and they can be up by 10, 3 or 10 at the half. But I think the second half is going to belong to Ohio State. I actually think this spread of this game is going to be anywhere between 12 to 15 points at the most. I think it's going to be it's going to be a better game than people anticipate. But I think Ohio State pulls away in this game in the second half.
So Jacobs, I hear butthurt coming from South Florida because something that happened 20 years ago. I'm hearing butthurt coming from Notre Dame because Miami edged Notre Dame in for the.
This is petty. Underline my.
Hold on, now I'm trying to get the objective viewpoint from somebody who doesn't have a dog. Apparently, doesn't have a dog in this fight.
Yeah, his dog was definitely not in the fight this year. His dog was definitely not in the fight this year.
Can you answer me a question, Harris?
Please,
sir. Today is December 31st. What's the year? What year are we in?
This is 2025.
They're talking about something from 22 years ago about a play. Miami Hurricanes, 22 years later. They had 22 years to avenge that call. Miami has been relatively irrelevant for over 2 decades, and you all can make all the jokes you want to, but Florida is the only panel of people between Notre Dame, Miami, and Florida that has multiple national championships this millennium. Before the jokes crack, we got 2 of them things. But back to that point, Miami had 22 years to avenge that. They have been relatively unknown. They didn't even make the conference championship this year in a conference that wasn't good. The conference championship had Duke in there, and the coach at Duke was a former Miami head coach. So many just atrocities that exist with the Miami Hurricanes this year. It's absolutely ridiculous that we're sitting here talking about the Miami Hurricanes like they've been some powerhouse for the last 2 decades because, oh my God, they got 2 losses. They made it in, and they beat Texas A&M, who probably wasn't even that good of a team to begin with. And now they about to run into the big dogs up there in the Big Ten, Ohio State, who has Heisman Trophy finalist Julie Saying out there. And they also got the best receiver in the country. Now, we could talk about Miami. I believe I agree with Preston. Malachi Tony is phenomenal. Bain on the defensive line is phenomenal. But you know who ain't phenomenal on the Miami Hurricanes? Their play caller, their signal caller, Carson Beck. Trash. Throw him in the trash can. The trash can comes out Tuesday and Friday. That's the reason why you all are going to lose, because you're not going to be able to produce enough offense because your quarterback is trash. And that's going to be the biggest difference. I think in the trenches, it's going to be a battle. The Ohio State Buckeyes have the best offensive line in the country right now. And I think Miami has one of the best, if not the best, defensive line, and certainly the best defensive lineman in Ruben Bain right now. But the big difference is going to be who's passing the ball, and that's Carson Beck.
Hold on, don't sleep on Miami's offensive line now. Don't sleep on Miami's offensive line.
Look, you can block all you want to, but if he
Miami's offensive line,
I don't care how much time he got. He's gonna throw it to the other team.
So look, as a Hurricane fan, I've said this, and we've watched the 2 games that we lost this year. It came down where we put the ball in Carson Beck's hands, and that injury. I don't feel like his injury he's 100% back from that injury. It's almost like a Tommy John surgery, right? Where you're just not going to have that same kind of arm strength. And that's why you see a lot of his successful throws late in the games. They're inside the hashes, right? It's when he gets outside the hash, trying to throw it out. But like the one against Louisville, he was trying to throw it out, and it looked like a duck. It was a dead duck. That's why the man was able to step in front of it. But I think that if we can control that, if Miami's offensive line can control the line of scrimmage, and they can give that ball to Fletcher, let him pound on them a little bit, and then get Tony into space, because they do a phenomenal job. Their offensive coordinator does a phenomenal job of finding creative ways to give Malachi Tony the ball. They'll put him in wildcat. They'll give it to him in the backfield. They do a very good job of hiding, because he's still, at the end of the day, he's a freshman. He's kind of small, right? So you can't just line him up in the same spot every time. Let the defense just figure out how to corral him. But I think if they have the game plan, if they can enforce their will, if that offensive line can enforce their will, right, and run the ball, okay, I think that Miami has a chance, because then you keep that. Their best defense, even though they have a strong defense, their best defense is going to be keeping Jeremiah Smith and that offense off the field. Okay, if they can keep Jeremiah Smith on the sideline, and we can continue to pick up and play field position and pick up those yardages that we need, I think that we have. I think we have time. I think we'll come out of this thing with a close victory, but I think we'll come out of this thing with a victory.
So I'm hearing because we're gonna close this one out. So I'm hearing you think they have a chance. Who's gonna win the game tonight?
Miami. Okay. Miami by 3.
All right, Jacob. So who you got, man? Who's
Ohio State by 10.
Ohio State by 10. Ooh, that's not even close. All right, Preston. Who's gonna win the game tonight, man?
Ohio State by 14. 21-24, 24-10.
There's a reason the line's at 9.5, Harris. The line's at 9.5 for a reason.
Yeah.
The weakness is what Allen he passively mentioned it. You can line Tony up in the Wildcat, but at some point the ball's got to be in Carson Beck's hand. And they know that is the difference. We got 2 powerhouse teams. All jokes aside, 2 powerhouse teams. One team has a glaring weakness in Carson Beck. The other team does not. And I think that's going to be the difference in the game.
Listen, guys, I want to talk about the Orange Bowl, and the reason why I want to talk about the Orange Bowl is because nobody's talking about the Orange Bowl. I have a team crush on Texas Tech since I've seen them play these last few weeks. So the fact that Texas Tech and Oregon square off tomorrow they're gonna kick off the day of bowl games at noon. So when we party tonight like we used to when we were young, and we're gonna sleep in and we're gonna get up just in time to turn the game on at noon, we're gonna see Texas Tech and Oregon. And I'm glad you brought up the line, Keith Jacobs, because I'm gonna let you start out. Oregon is favored by 2.5 points. This is a sucker bet. They're saying that Oregon is going to beat Texas Tech. Why? Because nobody wants to see Texas Tech. Talk to me about this game.
Well, again, so Oregon's going to get the favor. Dan Lanning's done a phenomenal job of pace throughout the season. He does a great job conditioning those boys in the all season. So when the season starts, they're running high, fast pace. You know, offense, pass, run. They really take time to huddle. It's constant motion. So what Dan Lanning has done a phenomenal job of is wearing down other defenses. So he's had the benefit of playing teams and running them into the ground. And so anytime that whatever you think of, whether it's Mariota, any other Oregon quarterback, you think about just high percentage throws. You know, even right now, their quarterback Dante Moore, he's one of the best power 4 quarterbacks in the country right now. He's completing over 70% of his passes, but that's a Dan Lanning offense. It's fast, it's quick hits, and so I think a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to see that Texas Tech defense. I think Texas Tech's going to try to do the best that they can in slowing down Dante Moore in that offense. I just don't think they have enough firepower on offense to be able to keep up with Oregon. And I think that's why the line, I think you said was 2.5, Keith.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why is because this is going to be a high scoring game. We'll talk about scores and predictions later. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I think the team that makes the fewest mistakes is obviously going to have the advantage, but the team that can dominate at least 2 of the 3 phases of the game is going to win this one. And I think Oregon has a better shot than that than Texas Tech right now. But Texas Tech's going to be phenomenal.
So let me just give y'all a factoid, right? So I asked the college football guys as we were preparing for this to give me the top 3 players to watch. For Texas Tech, they give me 3 defensive players, 2 linebackers, David Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez, linebackers, and they give me Lee Hunter, defensive tackle. They're telling me right now that the top 3 players who are watching this game is they don't want to hear about Oregon. I don't want to hear about Oregon. I'm a Texas Tech fan. So from what I've seen, what you got?
So this is the thing. I was looking at Texas Tech when I was looking things through. That Texas Tech, while they are top 5 in both scoring offense and scoring defense, they're top 5, right? They're the only team that both their offense and defense are ranked that high. However, they have the lowest strength of schedule. They have the worst strength of schedule. So while you're looking at, they beat up on a lot of teams. They dominated their their schedule, but who was on their schedule? You know what I'm saying? So have they faced those teams that they're going to face tomorrow in Oregon? Have they faced somebody like that, right? And Oregon comes with one thing I was impressed with, Jacobs, was that Oregon has 3 running backs over 500 yards.
They're gonna wear you down, man.
3, and that's unheard of, right? So you're talking about the ability to rotate, continue to hit you with that pressure time and time again with quality backs in the backfield that can hit you with, can be very explosive, right? I don't know if Texas Tech has seen thus far this year what they're going to see from Oregon. So I'm so you can know I'm going for Oregon. I love Dan Lanning. I like Jacob said, I love what he's doing out there in Oregon, and it goes to show. I always talk about that team, that Alabama team, that Nick Saban team that had all these coaches: Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin, Dan Lanning was the GA on that team, on that coaching staff. And you see those guys when they leave, they go to their respective. They've gone to their respective schools and have performed well. Dan Lanning has done a phenomenal job out there in Oregon. I think Oregon's gonna walk away with this one. I think it's not gonna be as close as people think it is, because I don't think Texas Tech is ready for what Oregon is going to bring to the table.
Preston, defense wins championship.
Yeah, not in this game though. I think it's gonna be the offense. This game is an easy 70-point, 80-point ball game. And if you watch both teams, they're fun. Like they're fun to watch, right? The Big 12's fun. Oregon's fun to watch in the Big 10 now, but they've always been a fun, wide open offense. I think on our side, because we're based on the East Coast, we don't get to see Oregon a lot because they're all on the West at Pacific time. And just Texas Tech, just the brand name is not huge in football to want to watch that Big 12 ball. So we don't get to see them. But I did see Texas Tech, I think, a game and a half. I saw Oregon maybe a game and a half. And both Alan and Keith are absolutely right. They're wide open. Oregon's more balanced than one would think, because you think Oregon's spreading the ball amongst the wide receivers. They're more balanced on the ground than you would think. And watching Texas Tech, they're kind of gritty. All right. They're a gritty ball club. So
yep.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think the line is probably right. I'd say somewhere 7 or under, between 2 and 7 points would be the spread. I'm not a huge Oregon fan. I always thought Oregon was a gimmick school under Chip Kelly. That kind of stuck with me. But Dan Lanning has proven that he's a fantastic coach. So this game could go either way. I'm in it for the entertainment purpose.
Now, I'm going to tell you this, that what is surprising, because Texas Tech kind of came out of nowhere. And when I'm looking at them, they're almost like the Yankees of college football. They've spent the most money in NIL. So they're trying to buy themselves a championship, and they're trying to buy themselves a win. So if they do win, it will go to that message of, now the NIL is available. And if you have the money, you can buy yourself some championships, because they did it in softball last year. So they're here because they spent a lot of money on NIL to get quality players, because they weren't in the conversation last year. So you're talking about from being not in the conversation to being in the one of the final 8 teams in the quarterfinals. I think that goes to show that you can, now with NIL, you can possibly buy yourself a championship. But we'll see come tomorrow.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, guys. I want to close out by saying, me personally, they are not just my sentimental favorite, but I agree with you. I think you can buy talent, but once you buy that talent, you have to have the right coach to motivate that talent. Just like we've seen for years in the NBA, when you bring in all of these talented teams, these talented players to join the team, the right coach can get talented players to play up, and I think that's what Texas Tech has done. This is my sentimental favorite for to be an upset for tomorrow. So I'm going on record. Jacobs, who's going to win the game tomorrow and why?
Definitely gonna be Oregon. Like I said, with Dan Lanning, you all brought up with the running backs, the quarterbacks got over 30 touchdowns. It's gonna be fast, high paced. They're gonna wear down that defense. Like Preston said, I think it's easily 70 plus points combined. It's gonna be a high scoring game. I just don't think Texas Tech has enough horses to be able to keep up with that Dan Lanning offense. We saw what he did in the Big 10. He's fast paced over quarterbacks over 3,000 yards. I think Oregon's is gonna run away with a victory. Under 7 to Preston's point, but it's gonna be a high scoring game.
All right, good stuff, guys. Well, listen, Preston, I'm gonna let you start this next segment off, because somebody had a whole lot to say about Alabama. The Rose Bowl is at 4:00. It's tomorrow afternoon, and in the Rose Bowl is the number 1 ranked team in the country, Indiana, against number 9 Alabama, who some people don't feel should even be in the ball. Why is it that you're so convinced that Alabama doesn't need to be playing in this game tomorrow? Uh-oh.
Alabama has been inconsistent this season. Okay. They have, just by the eye test, they have not looked good for a consistent period of time. Okay. I do think my argument still goes back to the last game played versus Georgia. It stunk. It looked bad. It smelled bad. It was a terrible performance by Alabama. Fast forward, they're here, and they have to play the number 1 ranked Indiana Hoosiers, which just sounds crazy coming out. Just Indiana Hoosiers as a football school just sounds ridiculous. All right, it just doesn't roll off the tongue. But they're there, and deservingly so, I guess. I don't think they're that good. I love the freaking coach, though. All right. His attitude, his cockiness, his confidence, it just exudes through his entire team. It has them playing better than their talent level. They won the conference, the number 1 ranked. They had a bye in the college football playoffs. They're going to play Alabama for a massive game. The quarterback wins the Heisman, whatever. All right, you know what I mean? Whatever the case may be. But I think this is the Alabama brand versus the deserving hype 2 years in a row for Indiana. All right. This game could be fun to watch. I think a lot of people want to see Indiana ride this wave and beat Alabama. I don't think it happens. I think this is where Indiana comes to a close. I think the experience of this Alabama team, all right, with this Alabama head coach ends up beating Indiana in this game by about 3. I'm just going to say it. It'll be close. I think they're going to be about 3. I think Alabama's talent, that talent gap is going to show in this game. That SEC talent gap will show in this game. It is what it is. Everything that Alabama struggled with in their own conference, respectively so, with the toughest conference, that's the G League for the NFL, that is going to show versus Indiana.
Jacobs, he talked. Now he wants SEC dominance. I know you're gonna jump on the same train. Here, I got 2 words to say about Indiana tomorrow at 4:00. Google me.
That's what Coach Cignetti said. I win.
That's
Google
what he
me.
said.
He wins.
Hey, he wins.
But I also
just before Keith goes, and he's gonna back me up. I know how Keith goes. But it's hard for him to root for Alabama. He's gonna do it in this case. However, but he is absolutely right. That coach at Indiana has spread this beautiful perfume on this team, and it's right. It's Indiana's 2. This is not like 1 year. This is 2 years now. This is 2 years in a row.
Go back even before him his record before Indiana.
True enough. But it's at Indiana. Like nobody wants to go to Bloomington. All right, good party school, but nobody wants to go to Bloomington. All right. However, the SEC is not the Big Ten. Okay, the SEC is not the Big Ten, and even though I speak casually about how bad Alabama looked versus Georgia ain't Ohio State, who ain't played nobody all season. All right, it ain't the same. We ain't dealing with the same thing. It's levels to this. I think Indiana's about to find out there's a different level in the SEC.
Keith, Indiana's favored by 7 points. Indiana is favored by 7. Not even close.
Yeah, I'll flip it. My pick, flip it.
Go ahead, Keith.
No, I was gonna let you finish, Harris.
No, go ahead. No, you good. You good.
The man did say Google me. So, but if you do Google, no disrespect to Coach Cignetti, you see Indiana as one of the softest strength of schedules in the country. I Googled you. I looked it up. Yeah, you're averaging 40 points a game. You're only giving up about 10 points a game, but you're not playing anyone. Alabama had to play Georgia twice. Georgia has been inarguably a top 5 team. And so when we talk about players like the newcomer Mendoza, he may arguably be one of, statistically, y'all, I don't want nobody to go crazy if you're an Indiana fan, statistically one of the worst Heisman winners in the history of the Heisman. One of them. When you
talk your talk, Keith. Talk your talk, Keith.
He had less than 3,000 yards passing. In a conference that is designed for you to be able to pass the ball. Why Oregon has over 3,000 yards passing. There's a reason why Julian's saying that Ohio State is putting up these kind of numbers. The Big Ten, that's what it was designed for, is for you to be able to throw the ball, cast the ball in the air. And Indiana and Fernando Mendoza has not been able to do that. And what we saw when they ran up against Ohio State, even though they ended up coming out at the end of the game, we saw they come up against and I think Alabama's got one of the best defenses in the country. When we saw what happens when they go up against a powerhouse defense, Fernando Mendoza is a pumpkin. So yes, he had some last minute heroics. He brought the team back when they needed him, but for 2+ quarters, he was underwater. He was seeing like Eli Manning said, he was seeing ghosts out there. So with the speed, and it pains me because I'm UF to my core to say Alabama. To see Alabama's defense come out there, and they're going to keep him contained. They're going to keep him in the pocket. And they're going to force him to sit back and pick them apart. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. And so I do think Alabama's going to come out of this. I know they have 3 losses, but remember that, like I said, they played Georgia twice. I mean, it is what it is. They played them. Georgia top 5 team.
And that's the thing. Out of all the teams that are left, Alabama had the strongest strength of schedule.
That's it.
So, they played Oklahoma twice. They were 1-1 against Oklahoma. They were 1-1 against Georgia, right, this year. So you're talking about them having to go through that gauntlet. Their strength of schedule was tougher than Georgia's, right? Florida had a tougher strength of schedule, but you're talking about one of the tougher strength of schedules that they've had. That they had a gauntlet to go through, and they went through it fairly unscathed, right? They got through that gauntlet with only 2 losses. They lost to Georgia. They beat Oklahoma. Well, they lost to Oklahoma. They lost to Georgia in the SEC championship, but they beat Georgia early in the year, right? So they've had a chance to improve and get better. And I agree with Preston. They haven't looked consistent. They're not the consistent team that we're used to seeing from Alabama. That defense has given up. That defense is average, allowing teams 120 yards per game. That is not the Alabama defense that we're used to seeing, right? But then you have to look at who are they giving those yards up to, right? We always say that your opponents, that matters, right? Who you're playing matters. And Alabama has played the toughest schedule that we've seen, that we're going to see out of all these teams. I think they'll find a way. It's going to be interesting to see if that Indiana defense, even though Ryan Williams, I would say that last year, coming out of his freshman year, he's probably number 2 receiver coming into the season behind your boy up in Ohio State. But he's had a pretty average year, right? Pretty average year. The last 5 games, he's only had 7 catches. Okay, so he hasn't had that game that we thought he was going to have. He hasn't had that sophomore season. But then you have the receiver Bernard, who's had a phenomenal year. Okay, so they have 2 guys on the outside that can really stretch that field, and it's going to be interesting to see if Indiana. And I love Indiana. I love the way they play. They're very gritty. They play hard. I love to hear the coach inspire them. And they play inspired football. They've played inspired football throughout the year. But I think when they see the speed, and it's not the speed in the back end, it's going to be the speed up front that I don't think they've seen yet. Yeah. Right? And that's where the difference is going to be.
Harris, real quick. I feel like I'm having deja vu. I remember talking to Alan and Preston about this last year when Indiana got into it. And I remember telling them they didn't deserve to get in there for the same reasons I'm saying now. But this time they're the number 1 team in the country. But you all remember what happened when they played a real defense in Notre Dame last year? Does anyone remember that? What happened?
Man, they got blasted.
They got 27-3. Yeah. I think the final score was like 27-14 or 27-17. was the final score, but they were down 27-3 because for the first time all season, real defense with real speed in the back end, the back four, back five. They saw real speed. And I think that's the same thing we're going to see with this Alabama team. For the first time, they're going to see what real game speed looks like on defense. And so that's I just want to add that little piece in there.
Yeah.
And guys, I have the last word on this particular game. Honestly, we talked a little bit about the coaches, but for me, I'm gonna have to go with the group. I think it's going to be Alabama. I do that. I say that based on coaching matchup. If I have to put Cignetti up against Alabama's coach, Kalen DeBoer he's been in that pressure cooker now in Alabama for long enough now to where, you know, this is not going to be new to him. This is not going to be a new phenomenon for him. So I've actually got Alabama. All right, so our last game is the Sugar Bowl, and y'all talked about Georgia. Georgia looked very, very, very impressive coming into the end of the game against Ole Miss. Now, the backstory in this game, we just got finished talking about coaching. The backstory is Ole Miss going to be able to rise enough to the level of sentimental expectation to actually make an appearance in this game? Who wants to start out?
No. Ole Miss's problem is going to be their defense. They don't play any defense. They have the worst defense out of everybody left. Okay, they're the only one their defense is not in the top 20. All right, so they don't play defense. No, Lane Kiffin is the offensive guy. They're explosive. They're creative on offense. That quarterback, Trinidad Chambers, he looks phenomenal, at times. But defensively, they're not good. They're not good. And they're going up against the Kobe Smart team that, we never expect Kirby Smart's teams, Georgia teams to be high-powered offense. We always expect them to be good on defense, but they're going to be consistent. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play action. They're going to beat you up front. So I don't think that Ole Miss has enough defensively to pull this one out, especially with that Georgia team that we saw in the SEC championship. I just don't think they have enough defensively to make this happen.
Yeah, Preston.
Not so fast, my friend. Do not
shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out to the great. Shout out to the great Lee Corso.
Allen's been a head coach, all right? So don't discount the organization that a head coach brings to a football team, okay? I think that is a key element going to this game. You just can't say they're going to play inspired football. The DC, who's now the head coach, is going to be fine. The offensive coordinator, who semi-call plays, is just going to be fine without Lane Kiffin there to keep the team organized. I think that's a larger element that people give credit, all right? Don't discount that. Now, if we go body for body, I think Ole Miss has more offense than Georgia has defense. Let me credit Georgia offensively if they have looked more organized offensively and has opened up that offense to Gunnar Stockton as the season has progressed. Gunnar Stockton has looked like a very good, adequate, serviceable is an understatement. Gunnar Stockton has looked like a very good quarterback the second half of the season, and they've trusted him, and you can tell by the play calling. Trinidad on the other side at Ole Miss has looked fantastic because that offense is designed for him to be a mobile quarterback, make quick decisions, quick reads, and get the freak out of there. All right. They also have that running back Lacey, who has been really freaking good, one of the best running backs in that conference. I agree with Allen. They're not great defensively, but I think the offense that they have has a chance to be better than Georgia's defense on a given night. So I think this is probably one of the more interesting games that could go either way. I think Lane Kiffin not be there is going to be impactful for the first half. I don't think Ole Miss is going to look as organized until after they get out that locker room in the second half. And Georgia has been a two-half team. Don't forget that. Georgia has looked like crap in first half of ball games, and then vice versa. They look really good in first half of ball games. So it does depend on which Georgia team is going to come out to play and whether they're going to play a full 4 quarters. All right, I want to hear everybody else's predictions at the end before I give mine, because I think mine can go either way. I want to hear Keith's argument as we heard Alan's. I want to hear Keith's argument first.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing a Florida Gator go ahead and proclaim that the Georgia Bulldogs are the better team in this game, and they're gonna win the game. So I need
everybody listen up. Everybody listen up.
Y'all lean on in. Y'all lean on in. This could be the first time.
Screen record this.
This could be the first time we hear this.
It's being recorded. So go ahead, Jacob.
The saying goes, when you lie down with dogs, you wake up with.
Hey, watch yourself.
I don't care if it's UGA 1, UGA 2, 3, 4. There is no way picking Georgia Bulldogs to get out of their kennel anybody. This has been one of the top offenses in the country the entire season. And when I mean one of the top offenses, I mean with Trinidad, Mr. Trinidad himself. Island Vacation, Trinidad. 3,800 total yards on the season. He's going to beat you with his feet, and he's going to beat you with his arm. And when he steps back and that Georgia defense gets to him, if they are not disciplined, Preston and Allen are both defensive guys. If you don't stay in your lane, if you don't stay in your gaps, Preston's a defensive back. Preston, you know firsthand as a defensive back, you can't cover them receivers but so long. And when he's moving around in the pocket and Georgia's putting that pressure on him, he's getting out of there. He's out of there. I firmly believe, to y'all point earlier, the game's going to be close in the first half. I do think it's going to be close. I think that Ole Miss is going to figure out a way to go into the half with a lead and extend that half into the third quarter. Now, with that said, the fourth quarter, I think Georgia, their defense alone is going to start to close that gap. But ultimately, I think it's going to be time of possession is going to be the biggest difference in this game. I think that Trinidad Chambers, with his combination of running and passing, I think that he's going to be able to manage the clock, move the sticks, and create first downs. I see Ole Miss winning by 7.
Oh, there you go, Alan.
Listen, I agree that a dual threat quarterback, and I think that Chambers is going to cause some issues. But one thing I've always liked about watching Kirby Smart's defense, is up front, they tend to be very disciplined in their pass rush lanes. They don't get out of their pass. And he knows. Okay, you got a dual threat quarterback coming in. You can't just free rush. You have to rush with integrity. You have to rush with the mindset of we're going to squeeze this pocket up front in the middle. They're going to squeeze. Those D tackles are going to squeeze the pocket. That 3 technique is going to push. That 1 is going to push. They're going to squeeze. They're going to corral him and try to keep him in to minimize his effectiveness with his legs. And then they're going to try to hit him low. When he does get out, they're going to try to hit him low. Okay? So I think that when you're looking at this on a defensive standpoint from Georgia, I think that the game plan is, look, we're going to cover these receivers. We feel like our DBs and our secondary can cover their receivers. Our main thing is to, like you said, not allow him to extend the play and run around so that our DBs are now in a bad situation. So I think you're going to see some very controlled dogs. You're going to see a lot of zone pressures. You're going to see some ways Kirby is going to try to confuse him with the pressure as far as who's coming. They're going to show pressure to the right, bring pressure up the middle, or bring it from the left. They're going to squeeze that pocket, and they're going to try to keep him inside that pocket as much as possible and force him to beat him with his arm. Not saying he can't do it, but I think that is going to be the game plan going in for Kirby Smart. Force him to throw from the pocket and beat us with his arm, and I think we'll come out with a victory. I'm a Gator fan, but I'm not as diehard as Jacobs. I'm going with Georgia. That Georgia team that we saw in the SEC tournament was a dominant team. That was a team we've been waiting to see all year. That was a dominant performance by them, and I think that they continue and add on to that, and they put this Ole Miss team to bed.
Can I ask real quick, Harris? Harris, can I ask something real quick?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not watching the same games y'all watching, but I remember on rivalry week, the Georgia Tech game. I remember that game. Georgia Tech being one of the high-powered offenses in the country. Anybody remember that game?
Yeah.
The game was 16-9. Georgia wins. And what you notice in that game is that Georgia had a hard time with that high-powered Georgia Tech offense. They had a hard time with them, and so Georgia Tech was able to keep time of possession, so that kept the game close. You know what else? Well, you know who else struggled? Remember I talked to you all about Carson Beck in Miami. You know where Carson Beck played football before then? So I'm going to talk about Stockton as well. Stockton in that game only had 70 yards passing. If Stockton goes into this game against Ole Miss with under 150 yards passing, there is no way they're going to be able to keep up with that offense. It's not going to happen. Because this ain't Georgia Tech. Ole Miss going to put up some points. And that's why I think that Ole Miss is going to put up points against Georgia.
Preston, break the tie. I got a strong argument for Mississippi, a strong argument for Georgia. I'm a withhold
you do. I think experience matters. I think Kirby Smart and his staff and that experience is going to matter. I think Keith makes a good point about Georgia Tech. I could go tip for tat because Georgia looked fantastic against Texas in their high-powered offense. All right, so I give you give me one, I raise you another. I think that Georgia is going to come out hot in the first half. I think they're going to look really good. Everybody's going to be like, Ole Miss doesn't look great without Lane Kiffin. I can see that what it looks like in the first half, probably like a 20-3 type of first half game. Watch, and then as Ole Miss gets organized and that coaching staff gets settled, I can see Ole Miss making a run in the third quarter, much of the fourth. I think Georgia holds on with a late touchdown, ultimately winning by 10. But the real score, I think the game stays within balance by about 3. That second half is going to be a different half. I think it's going to be like a 3-point spread, and Georgia may get a late touchdown, which makes it ultimately game by 10. So I'm going to lean with Georgia in the victory.
Yeah, well, I like that. Go ahead.
Preston, what you said? Texas. The same Texas team that lost to the University of Florida.
We're talking Texas and just that game. How the offense look. That's all we're talking about.
You can't pick and choose.
That's all we're talking about. And don't bring.
You talking about they look
good. Florida's nowhere to be involved with it.
It is to be involved when you put it in context.
It does not have to be.
You're talking about a Texas team that for the majority of the season was outside the top 15. Season, Texas was outside the top 15 with the first-year quarterback in Arch Manning, who everybody thought was going to be a Heisman finalist. Turned out, you know what? He's probably the worst Manning right now at this phase in his career, being in year 3 in school, but only year 1 as a starter. He's probably not the best Manning. So you can't say that, okay, they look great against Texas when Texas lost to a team with 4 wins. Texas wasn't good all year. Texas was the benefit of a compromising schedule, and so they did boat race Texas, but that's not a barometer of how great they've been all year. Texas was
no, it's not.
Not that good, Preston. Good.
All right, so look, guys.
I didn't use Texas. I used Georgia Tech for a reason. Georgia Tech's been good all year. They got 1 loss.
Sounds like a little bit of Florida hate, but
just a little bit. Listen, guys. Hey, I'm gonna land this. I'm gonna land this plane, and I was silent on the Georgia prediction for a reason, because I'm gonna land this plane by giving you guys an opportunity to tell us who's gonna win the national championship. I think the Georgia team that I saw at the end of this season is the best team in college football. I think Georgia Bulldogs, and it's hard for me to say that, and y'all might think I'm biased since I moved to Atlanta, but I think the Georgia Bulldogs.
You have act different since you moved up there, though.
Was it? So your taste in things have changed a little bit since you moved to the A. They have a little bit. I will go back to my prior comment though about coaching. I mean, this is what I saw Kirby Smart do at the end of this season is how you win national championships. I mean, I think you get your team to a place where they recognize and you recognize that you are the best team, and you get your players, plugged in. So I believe Georgia wins the national championship. Who wants to give me their prediction for the national championship? National champion. Go ahead, Preston.
This is exactly why folks like me don't want Alabama in there, because Alabama's gonna win it.
Woo.
They've done it before.
Ooh.
You've done it before. They've been on the outside. The committee voted them in, and Alabama goes off, and they in the playoffs they look like the best team in there, and they go win the national championship. I think Alabama. I think Alabama's gonna win it, man. I just think they will. I think they will. I think the way they looked against Georgia was trash. It won't happen again. I don't think Ohio State is ready for that next round. I'm definitely not an Indiana fan. I think Texas Tech and Oregon it's gonna be a fun game. But I think when it comes down to it, that Alabama's schedule is gonna win out. I think the experience of DeBoer being in the Final Four, matter of fact, the championship game, all right, with Washington, I think it's gonna win out, man. I don't like it, but I think Alabama's gonna freaking win the whole thing. That's why I didn't want them in.
Yeah, sounds kind of similar to my my rationale for why I think Georgia is in the dance in the end. Go ahead. Who's next?
I'll go ahead, and I'm gonna pick Georgia for the same reasons that Preston is picking Alabama. I think that as the year, later in the year, you take away the Georgia Tech, that's a rivalry game, right? We always say when you go to rivalry games, you take those off the map because you never know. We've seen last year when Michigan beat Ohio State, right? You don't, rivalry games are just that for a reason. Okay. So I think that Georgia, I think that Kirby has those guys playing very well. I think that they will find a way to continue to push their will on people defensively and offensively. And I think they find a way. I think they're gonna have they have a close game coming up with Ole Miss, but I think if they can get past that, I think Georgia has a chance to go ahead and bring it on back to the SEC. It needs to come back to the SEC, so all these Big Ten and other people can stop trying to put themselves at the same level as the superior conference. But I think Georgia finds a way.
Well, let me add this before you talk to Keith. The brackets, how they align matter. Okay. It happened in Notre Dame last year. Notre Dame had a favorable bracket to get to the championship game. So I looked at it and I said, if we get in there and once they set those brackets, we got a chance to make it there. Right now, as it stands, Georgia wins. They beat Ole Miss. They got to play Ohio State. That round game is a dog fight that could go either way, even though none of us are Ohio State fans. And I think that could pose more of a problem for Georgia than Oregon or Texas Tech for Alabama. Okay, so I think Alabama has the easier route to get to the championship game than Georgia does, which also has me picking Alabama.
So you got Bama versus Ohio State in the championship game?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. No, I don't have a pick for that bottom bracket, to tell you the truth. And it actually wouldn't matter to me. I just think that top side of the bracket is easier than Georgia's bottom side of the bracket.
All right. Well, listen, we know who you're not going to pick to win the national championship, Keith. But tell us who. give us and it's fitting giving you the last word because we started with you. Tell us who's actually going to win the national championship and why, sir.
Allen and Preston know a lot of things about me. They know I don't like Georgia. They know I don't like Alabama. They know these things. They also know I don't like the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten is a very weak conference as a whole. However, play caller in college football. Quarterback in college football. Insane. And the best receiver in college football. Good old Jeremiah. So I think that Ohio State's going to do it. I look at them as modern version of what Alabama and Georgia was from 2010 to 2019. Alabama and Georgia went back and forth with a sprinkle of LSU, but they went back and forth on who was winning that national championship. I think that's where we are right now with Ohio State. It's hard to even look at them as a Big Ten team with the amount of talent and speed that they've been able to bring up there at the wide receiver level, the quarterback level, and obviously that defensive front is something that the Big Ten hasn't been used to for decades. And I think that's going to be the difference. I know that they lost their offensive coordinator because he took a head coaching job, but people forget that Ryan Day was the best play caller in the country before he was a head coach. So I think that Ohio State's going to take it. I think that they're going to end up, to Preston's point, I think they're going to end up playing Alabama. I do think Alabama's going to get out of that top group. But I think Ohio State's going to bring it home, and they're going to be back-to-back national champions.
Hard to put money against Ohio State. Hard to put money against Georgia for the reasons that we talked about. Alabama, I don't know, man. Oof. You out on the limb. I look forward to getting back together, guys. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this is how I wanted to spend my New Year's Eve. But I look forward to getting back together after the playoffs are over with, so we can see who was right, who was the smartest in the room. Hey, listen, enjoy the rest of your New Year's Eve with family and friends. I want everybody to be safe. And for everybody who got an opportunity to tune in to this show, I thank you. God bless you. Enjoy your New Year's Eve. Happy New Year to everyone. And we'll see y'all on the flip side. I'll ask my guys to stay on while the producer takes us out. I want to thank my producer, Monica, who is my lovely wife and boss in the house. Thank you for helping to coordinate and corral this group and making sure everything worked for us. And again, on behalf of the family, friends, and family, all of us, Happy New Year, everyone.
Hey, Jacob, before you go, I know you just closed it out, but there's a comment on Facebook from Keon Cooper, and it says, so technically Florida could have been in the playoffs.
No.
That's a big no.
No, let's not do that.
That's a huge no.
No, we should not. Not unless we
That was a huge no on that.
Florida's in the NIT.
NIT, we'd be in the NIT probably, but nah.
And the worst part about it is they got 2.0 of the guy they just fired.
Right.
Don't get me started.
They went back to the same well to see if they could
close the show out. I don't know.
Peace out, everybody. Happy New Year to all. Right.
Let it run for the after hours.